The zeitgeist moves fast in games. It can be hard to keep up. It can feel like a never-ending tidal wave of new releases. And while I love surfing that wave and talking about what's new, I thought it might be fun to take a moment and do a series of short videos that take a look at some of my games of the year from 2020 through until now. The first video is about the amazing Kentucky Route Zero. It was my game of the year back in 2020. It's a very well-known game and very well regarded. It's a very slow, strange play that perhaps isn't for everyone, but I think it's fascinating. It's a mesmerizing work of art in video game form, and a bit of a landmark in how we think about games and what they can do and what they can be. And if you're up for that, then stick around for my thoughts on the game. Likes and subscribes are greatly appreciated. They help more people to see the videos. And hang around at the end to hear about the channel's Patreon if you feel like supporting it further. And with all of that said, let's get into it and talk about Kentucky Route Zero. Kentucky Route Zero is an indie game by a small independent studio called Cardboard Computer, and it's ostensibly a point-and-click adventure game, but throw everything you know about that genre out of the window because this game is something very different. It was initially released as 5 episodes and 5 interludes between 2013 and 2020, when the story was completed and a TV edition was released for all of the consoles and iOS. And the game starts at sunset, when a delivery driver called Conway pulls over at a gas station called Equus Oils. He's out on his last ever delivery for an antique store that is closing down, but he can't seem to find the location. It's going to Dogwood Drive, which doesn't seem to be on any maps. The directions we get are odd. We need to find the Zero, a mythical, half-real highway that runs deep beneath Kentucky. And so we set out on a bizarre underground journey that will take place across the course of one long, strange, and unforgettable night. And the gameplay of this game is pretty simple. We drive between places using an overworld map and explore locations, disused shops, bizarre offices, strange museums. We get out, we walk around. There aren't any traditional puzzles or collectibles or XP or anything like that. Instead, we just wander. We meet people, we talk to a large cast of recurring characters who are all living in the debris of forgotten Kentucky. We meet waifs and strays of all stripes, from Ezra, a lost child with a giant bird called Julian, to a struggling TV repairwoman called Shannon Marquez, to the robot couple, Junebug and Johnny, who are on their way to perform a gig at a local bar. We meet all kinds of people. We meet artists and playwrights. Everyone seems to have something on the go, whether it's setting up a game night, staging a play, or putting on a gig. And we get the sense of a community that is adrift, but connected, making art for themselves and for each other, to try and make sense of this strange world they live in, to explore its history and to tell us how it feels to be there. And the way that these conversations play out is very cool. Kentucky Route Zero has been described as a poetry generator because when people speak, we often get to choose what they say from 3 options. We get to decide on how they feel, what they reveal, whether they are happy in life, what they choose to share about themselves. So the characters feel like they become our own versions of them as we fill out their interests, their feelings, and their backstories. It's cleverly done, and it's one of the many things that makes Kentucky Route Zero feel as much like an interactive artwork as a game, and in fact it did start out that way. But as it grew, it seemed to expand into every art form going. Many scenes have panning cameras that feel starkly, slowly cinematic. The locations look like ingenious theatre sets, like a house in the early game that slides into view like a foreboding Hitchcockian silhouette. But when we enter, the wall cuts away, revealing a lived-in diorama to explore, with a ghost-like character who seems to guide us into the screen of an old TV. It's a game that thrives on atmosphere, and it has an amazing soundtrack that really helps to build it up. There are regular musical interludes from a house band and several in-game concerts that we attend, where I just set down the controller and sat back to soak it in. There are galleries of in-game digital art and plays that we watch or take part in. There's a helpline to call, but I still have no idea what it's for, really, even after listening to all of the bizarre recorded advice it has to offer. And as we drift through all of this strangeness, we slowly form a party that'll be coming along for the ride. Many of the characters seem barely real, like echoes of themselves somehow. It's a world full of fascinating weirdos in liminal spaces that form a community together, a community of the lost, deep in debt, and barely hanging on to this crumbling edge of America. our journey takes us to some quite magical places like Lost Islands and an underground river, a floating tiki bar called the Rum Colony, a museum of houses, and a nature reserve for bats. Too many to mention, really. All of the places are packed with local lore, and as we explore them, we have to slow down to this game's pace. You have to still your mind, kind of, and saunter through the episodes and interludes to see how it all plays out. I could only play this game at night, and I did one episode and one interlude each evening. It just seemed to make sense that way, and I think that's the way to play, to give yourself some processing time in between each episode, and to attune to what this game is trying to do. And it's trying to do a lot. I think that how you make sense of Kentucky Route Zero will depend on your style as a player and a person. You could easily fill notebooks with character names and references and timelines if you enjoy theory crafting and working for the story. But I decided at some point to stop trying to parse everything, to let go of the wheel, kind of, and just let the game wash over me, absorbing the sights and sounds and places and people. And that worked for me. I found myself slipping into a trance when I was playing, and finishing each chapter felt like waking up from a long dream. That's a lot of glowing words about this game, and I'm aware that this might come off as sounding pretentious, but I really don't know how else to describe the experience. Kentucky Route Zero just isn't like other games. It's been almost 5 years, and I still think about it all of the time. It's a collage of fascinating references, multidisciplinary art, poetic fragments and interlocking themes, and unforgettable moments, and it all adds up to something vast, vibey, deeply impressive, and more than the sum of its parts. So that's the video. If you've played Kentucky Route Zero, I hope you enjoyed riding shotgun on this video's meandering journey, and if you haven't, then you've a long drive ahead. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more like this. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Comments help more people to see the video, so I really appreciate that. And if you'd like to support this channel further, you can go to patreon.com/gaminginthewild. You'll get an invite to our patron-only Discord, as well as some other fun perks and bonus episodes. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the next one.